be here, and I want to thank the organizers for giving me the permission to speak first. And today I'm going to talk about how to create a startup ecosystem, a healthy ecosystem for startups. Now the thing is that I see in China that there is a problem with the startup ecosystem as I come from that environment. And I think that it should be improved. I'm going to show you how we can improve that. So a little bit about myself. As I said, I'm coming from Israel. I'm an entrepreneur since 2005. I'm blogging about entrepreneurship and startups in Startup Noodle, which became a consulting firm for companies and entrepreneurs. We also do mobile applications for iPhone and iPads. This is partnered with iCoreMedia. And I'm the organizer of the Lean Startup meetup in Beijing. There are over 300 members. I most welcome you to join. The last one, we had 70 people. The more the better. So, what is an ecosystem? And I'm speaking about the official term now. And the official term is a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. This is the biological term. But what is a startup ecosystem? It should be a little different. And the startup ecosystem is, as you can see, this is a simplified version of that. And this ecosystem its component are entrepreneurs that are there at the top. And we've got the supporting components, which are the human capital, it's the co-founder and the people who work there. They are the mentors, and of course, investors. Each of those components bring something else, something different to the table for that startup, which is very important. So, what are their needs? This is the same drawing, and as you can see, all of those components bring in the network. Network is extremely important for a startup, as it helps it grow, to know more people, and to actually be better. Each of the other things that they bring is the human capital brings talent. The mentor brings their guidance and experience. It's extremely hard working without those mentors coming in. And the investors, of course, bring the network, but they also bring the investment, the money, which some startup cannot do without. There's another approach to doing it lean. Sometimes can be started without it. We'll talk about different time. And my question is, does China have a good ecosystem for startups? Can we really have a good ecosystem that support our startups? So I'm gonna tell you about a survey that was made by GE, and that was made at the end of last year. And the good news is that China is the third most innovative country in the world. So these are good news for all of us. On the other hand, there's another survey, and it's actually a report. This is the Startup Ecosystem Report, and it lists the 20 most successful ecosystems in the world. So you can see Silicon Valley is number 1, Tel Aviv is number 2, as an Israeli, I'm very proud of that, and Los Angeles is number 3, and so on and so forth. There is no mention of China. So my question is, how come that such an innovative place is not at the top list of those startup ecosystems? How can that be? I would expect that an innovative place would have a good ecosystem. And this is where I'm going into the problem. And I think, as I said, there's no mention of China. And I think that the problem lies in how the startup ecosystem is built. Instead of supporting one ecosystem, we're actually supporting 2 ecosystems. There is one ecosystem for locals, and there is a different one for foreigners. And they don't interact too much with each other, which is a problem. So instead of supporting one single, we're actually supporting 2, and then we're wasting our energy on that. And these are, of course, smaller ecosystems. We can have one large, single, and strong one. But ecosystems can be changed, and this is my job and the job of everybody here at the room to make this change happen. I'm going to tell you a story about 2 programs I'm part of. The Startup Leadership Program and the next Startup Weekend Program. Startup Leadership Program is a kind of a mini MBA program that is teaching entrepreneurs for startup principles. Next program, Startup Weekend Next program, brings in, it comes much time before you're building the company. It's about customer discovery, it's about lean startup. It's about finding out the customer, what they're going to pay for, even before you're building this product. This is called being lean. On Startup Leadership Program, we had only foreign members on the teams. And currently at the next Startup Weekend, we have diversified teams of locals and foreigners. And that's a huge difference. I see at Startup Leadership Program, we didn't have that diversity. While in Next, we get that, and there are a lot of different viewpoints of people bringing in. And foreigners should know that if they want to succeed here, they need local partners, they need friends, they need support. And on the other hand, the locals need to know that if they want to go internationally, they need to have those partners outside of China, or foreigners are here as well. So this partnership, or this joint ecosystem, is very important. And this is a change. This is a change I see from the Startup Leadership Program and the next program. I see the next program as a much stronger one. I want to talk about two other ecosystems, which is China and Israel, which is a subject I'm very close with. Israel is an extremely innovative place. You can see here that this is a map of Israel with all its startups. There is a website that shows all the startups in Israel. And I told you before that I'm organizing the Lean Startup group here in Beijing, Lean Startup meetup here in Beijing. And our next meetup is about joint meeting with Israeli entrepreneurs and Chinese entrepreneurs. So that Israelis would call in and we'll have one speaker from Israel and one speaker from China. The Israelis are very, very interested in the China startup ecosystem. They want to know more about it, and there are many people registering. But they say, we have those cultural differences, we have language differences, and the minute we come here, we're afraid that we'll lose our IP. People would copy us. So they're afraid. Well, on the Chinese side, which is where investors are at the ecosystem, they say, if it's not a company that either comes to China or brings its technology to China, we don't want to hear about it. And I think this is a huge miss of the two ecosystems, just because they're afraid. It's my job, and I'm part of that, to bridge that gap and bring those communicate with each other. You see, they're not really talking enough with each other. And so, as I said, both of them are missing a huge opportunity. Back to our ecosystem. This is the China ecosystem. And I want to tell you what I think everybody here in the room, very practical, can do to fix that ecosystem. It starts with really tiny things. The first thing is force yourself to communicate. I'm not naive that there are no language barriers, but if you make the effort and even have a broken conversation, you get some kind of communication that make a change. Also, this is another story. A couple of weeks ago, I joined a local entrepreneurs group for a talk there. Now, my Chinese is okay, but not great, so I understood just a little of the conversation of what the lecturer said. But the most important thing is what happened right afterwards. Right when the talk was finished, I was very glad to be approached by local entrepreneurs and talking to them about the ecosystem here and what they do. And currently we're all talking on Weixin, in the Weixin group, which is great. So these are the types of experiences I expect to create, and this is what changed the ecosystems. We should be aware of as human beings, our bias to turn to people we are only feeling comfortable with, which is people like us. Foreigners will go to foreigners, Chinese will go to Chinese, and this does not make a change, it's make it harder. And the last thing, just like I did, the only foreigner at that event with the Chinese entrepreneurs, is please go to the other groups' events, meet other people. It's a whole, if it's a only foreigner event, go to that event, communicate with them. They'll do their broken Chinese, you'll do your broken English. It's really okay, but it's a start. It's a start to make a change and make one ecosystem that we can all enjoy of and be strong. Now, I want you to take something very practical from this talk. As I said, I want you to force yourself to communicate and talk with the other and start a conversation. And I think that would be a great help to make a change and build one strong, thriving ecosystem. Thank you very much. I think we have time for questions.
有没有问题？那个
有十几年问题。有吗？
Thank you very much. You can. So thank you very much for this fantastic addressing about startup ecosystems. So it's quite a question here, and for the future, I think Chinese how to just make more entrepreneurs and drive more new innovative technologies. Yes, I think for your just maybe just make a good proposal to maybe future China development. So I think I would like to ask maybe some of our invited guests here to make some comments about your ideas. All right. So 童总可以大概点评一下。How about the guest speaking Chinese?
No, I just have
Maybe, okay,
extra
okay.
sound if I don't
Yes, okay, okay.
Yes, thanks for your very interesting speech. And I just have a little question about your company name. So why you name your company Noodle? You just think maybe some common characteristic from startup to making noodles, or you think a noodle is very delicious? You want to name everything?
When I speak and I talk to people, sometimes they think I'm a restaurant. I'm not a restaurant. Startup Noodle started is because I'm very interested in entrepreneurship. We started a year ago. And the noodle part is because we're in China. And so many people here eat noodles, and this was a good thing to put together. I was looking for a name, and there are a couple of other websites. One of them is called Tech Rice. So I couldn't use the rice anymore, so I chose the noodles.
Yes, that's interesting also. So, and so yeah.
Well, I echo with your observation about the difference between China and Israel and other parts of the world. I have been to Israel several times and observed that Israeli people are very entrepreneurial. And I would like to comment that the lack of entrepreneurship and startup spirit in China may be related to too much regulation, because I think for entrepreneurs in China to start up a business, they need to spend a lot of time and efforts on just getting the company set up, to apply for the license. It's regulated, you cannot get it, you need to find the officials to give the approval, and this kind of thing. So I think that's one reason. But the other reason is probably the lack of maybe angel investors and early stage investors. So that's my comments.
I agree with what you're saying, and some of those regulations maybe need to be taken off, because after all, there is a huge growth and entrepreneurship all around the world, and I see this from the talks here. and some of those regulations constrain this development here in China. But I think that if some of those would be let to side, that would help very much for the Chinese economy.
So I think IPS really very serious problems during driving innovative technologies. But I think maybe your ecosystem could just maybe create a group innovative systems. So maybe you can just on behalf of the entrepreneurs, just make some third party, maybe insurance or maybe some guarantees for their IP, the property for that. I think I just have an idea about that. I don't know if it's right. Yeah.
I mean that entrepreneurs would be looking to be more safe on what they do.
Yeah.
There are some ideas around that, around the world. I think there is some in Israel as well.
Yeah.
But I learned that entrepreneurship is still driven by internal force for people to create something new.
Yeah.
And that's very important for them. And if that force would be very strong in them, they will do it no matter if it's safe or not safe.
Yeah.
They want to change the world. They really want to change the world, and they'll do that. They are going this way and they don't care.
Kind of spirit.
That's the kind of spirit, yes.
然后我们也非常今天高兴，就是有 IBM 那个大中华区的，就是刘洋水经理，然后来参加这个会议啊，非常感谢。